Hello there. Welcome to Electronic Arts Canada and to the 5th floor of the EA Canada building, which houses what's called Chaos. My name's Steve Schaffner. I'm the executive producer for Chaos. And Chaos is a group that's made games recently, like SSX and SSX Tricky. Now we've got a new game coming out that we want to show you called Sled Storm. Aside from Sled Storm, which is being done over here, there's a group over there that was working on SSX and SSX Tricky, and they've got something new coming out for next Christmas, which is pretty mind-boggling. So anyway, we're going to take you over here and show you a little bit of what's going on with Sled Storm. But for those of you who don't know, we set out to make a new racing game under the EA Sports big brand that was a real in-your-face racing experience, unlike anything hopefully you've ever had before. First of all, you've got about a 320 horsepower machine between your legs, and not just any ordinary sled. We start off with one sled, or sled line, called Red Line, which are the Ferraris of the sledding world. And then the rest of the sleds we created for the game, we've got sleds with 2 skis, 2 tracks, 1 ski, 1 track, 2 skis, 1 track, and each one of these sleds rides completely different from anything else in the game. Plus, you're taking on wild courses that are over the top. It is just in your face. There's not a moment to relax on this course, but it's a blast because you have opportunities to do so many cool things, as well as you're racing 5 people around the track. And we've got some pretty cool sleds and some pretty colorful characters out there. So let's go check out Sled Storm to see what we're doing, give you a little tour of Chaos, and see what you say. This is the Sled Storm development area. Over here where I just came out of, where our programmers are working. Our programmers have created all new technology to deliver a new rider physics experience, where not only does the rider come to life on the sled, and the sled come to life in the world, the way they interact with each other based on the terrain, based on the snow type, the conditions, the speed, really brings the sleds to life. Over here is Terry, our art director, and aside from creating the characters in our game, of which we have 6 unique new characters, we also have 2 characters that join us from the world of SSX Tricky. The real stars of our game are the sleds. We've got some crazy sleds. The only ones in the game that are actually based in reality are the Red Line sleds. And I don't know if you know much about snowmobiling, but these are the Ferraris of snowmobiling. These things are so powerful, they're not actually allowed in real snowmobile competitions. Let's go meet Terry. I'll tell you a little bit about the sleds.
So I'm Terry, and the art director, and today we're going to look at different sled designs that we've got in Sled Storm. I think the coolest thing about the sleds that we have in Sled Storm is that none of them are 100% realistic. We didn't want to make a simulation game, so we wanted to make the sleds as unique as possible. Every character's got their own tier of sleds, and they've all got their own influences. We make sort of several different types or models of sleds in the game. The first type being the standard ski sled, which you sort of see here with Tracy and our red lines. Pretty much like an actual snowmobile, 2 skis and a single drivetrain in the back. But of course the red lines are very, very exotic, very powerful, just completely state-of-the-art, probably like the fastest sled out there right now. We wanted to try and make the sleds very unique and personalized for each character. You can see that even though Tracy is sponsored by Redline, we wanted to grow her sort of tier or class of sleds as you upgrade. So we start off with the actual 954 Revolution model. You sort of upgrade to this one that I created. I kind of called it the Revenge, and it's kind of a little bit more of a GT car influence type sled, more of a unique kind of paint scheme, sort of a 60s style, and Tracy's signature model. You kind of move up to the Revolt, which is an actual sled model. We just tried to change the colors up a little bit, make it stand out, make it a little bit more unique. We've got the Rebellion, which is also an actual Redline sled, which is a snowcross specific type sled, really aggressive. Again, we sort of changed the color so we didn't have, all red sleds for her. And then the last one, which is a really unique one we created called the Redline Advanced. I kind of gave it more of a streamlined, almost sort of shark-like appearance, and gave it a big giant front grille. Again, I'm kind of trying to bring different influences to the sleds, and I'm a fan of sort of import cars, so I tried to bring that influence to all the different models. Sort of switches a little bit where you've got TJ's Sled, which is a single ski and single drivetrain. That's what we call a mono ski sled, and we wanted to give him a real motocross style influence. So we've got a motocross style frame. It's all sort of rusty with these panels on it. He's gone into a junkyard and upgraded it to polishing it and putting on additional bash guards and flames and lights. Really unique paint job, and culminating in a really unique paint scheme. The sleds in Sledstorm are all very, very unique. The sort of third style that we have is the quad sled, which is sort of modeled a little bit after an ATV. It's got 2 treads in the back and 2 skis in the front, and it's got a little bit more traction, but a little bit more weight going to it. So we not only tried to make the sleds unique as far as their visual appeal, but we tried to make them unique in their handling too. So hopefully, the user's going to be able to sort of see all these different aspects in the game and understand the different types of influence that have gone into them. And I hope you enjoy the game.
Here we are out in front of our studio in Vancouver, and as you can see, one of the nice advantages we have is it actually snows here. And what that enabled us to do was to get our entire Sledstorm team out in the snow and learning how to ride snowmobiles. One of our programmers that did that figured out that we needed to create an entirely new set of physics and animation to support the idea of the sled moving with the terrain and then the rider moving with the sled. This is John Harvey, the man that created that technology. You want to explain it a little bit?
Sleds have a lot more dynamics than you'd find in an average car. You can roll a sled, you can compress them and pull them back, and then the rear of the sled compresses all by itself. Modeling these kind of things turned out to be quite a challenge. There's about 150 parameters we use to model how a sled behaves. We can boil that down to about 10 parameters that change depending if you have a longer sled, a shorter sled, a wider sled, faster sleds when you buy upgrades, all the different parameters of a sled. Once you have a sled that we've modeled fairly accurately, we then have to interact between the sled and the person. The biggest thing you'll notice in our game is when you accelerate, especially in like storm mode, the rider is thrown back. Depending on what type of rider it is, a heavier or lighter rider will be thrown back more or higher. The next interaction that we see is the turning dynamics. In most kind of video games, you have a lean. In our game, there's more dynamics to it. You can pull over on one ski. The last interaction is between the sled and the terrain. On a field, it's rather difficult to demonstrate, but these sleds can travel up and down very steep terrain. And a rider, using different parts of the sled, can respond to that terrain. When you're going uphill, you'll stretch yourself back. When you're going downhill, you can stand right over the sled to try and get traction on either the skis for steering or back to get more traction on the treads to give you braking or acceleration. This kind of terrain character interaction really gives you an interaction with your terrain you're riding on. All of these different effects between the sled and the rider, between the terrain and the rider, between the user and what you're trying to tell the rider to do, all have to be balanced so that your actions show what you're doing in the video game.
That was real lucky. Watch me star!
Hi there, I'm Terry, and I'm the art director on Sledstorm, and I'll talk to you a little bit today about design and theory on tracks. Initially, we had a really, really great demo for E3. It was a track called Colorado, and it played really, really well. Some of you probably saw it. The thing with that track, a couple months after we had done it, we realized that it didn't really have that sort of EA Sports big kind of punch to it. So we basically kind of hit the drawing board again and revamped, the design for all the tracks for the game. We created a whole series of new tracks, and we basically assigned artists to each of the tracks, what we call track keepers, and they're essentially responsible for the design, main path, and look and feel for each of the tracks. And I think what we ended up with was a good range of tracks that are quite different in their level of difficulty and gameplay, but they're also very unique looking as well, of course. But they all sort of stand on their own as well. They all have their own little flavor and their own little unique character. And hopefully as you play the game, you're going to be able to sort of experience what the artists and the design team were thinking when they designed the tracks.